Um, Greetings, everyone. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for the warm welcome and the introduction, Mado. Very humbled and super grateful. So I will try to get right onto the topic of today. I have to say, when the list of topics was sent to me and I was trying to pick a topic, I think I also, in a way, selfishly took something that, and timing also, I figured that it is around the time of my birthday. I wanted to create a mark for for the potential to grow. And usually, when you think of mirror, you think of self-reflection, and that was really part of the reason to my picking the topic. I wanted to also have the ability to self-examine and see how and where I am and where we're growing. We are all students in this journey of life. It might come across as we are always instilling in you, but in our instilling in you, we are equally learning and probably learning and gaining so much more than we're imparting in you. And your responses to this process certainly empowers us as well. So I just wanted to give you guys a little brief idea of how and why the topic was picked, self-examination, and for some reason the topic really gets into that. The Law of the Mirror, and we all aware of the book, John C. Maxwell's book of 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. I would say I had not read it prior to TLA mentioning it. I got a copy of the book. I am chapters in, but I really took specific time to um, look into and get insight from the author on his notion of the law of the mirror. So in this chapter specifically, I think one of the things that he speaks very vividly about is self-esteem, how you view yourself, and how that shapes who shapes what you become and shapes how the world treats you back. Um, in this specific chapter, he talks about a specific character, Janetta Max Swain, who came in from a long history of abuse, of low self esteem, of feeling that she was never going to amount to something, and also from a background where she was unwanted and was not did not only feel unwanted but was told that she was not wanted, and that was her narrative. That's how she lived and believed for most of her life, and was subjected to abuse and tolerated it because she never saw herself as valuable and pretty much saw herself as um, a fruit of her society, and that she could only amount to the source from which she came from. But at some point, when she turned 30, 30 is a turning point for a lot of people. I see these days 40 is a turning point for a lot of people, but you have the potential to do that transformation before those specific milestone ages. So on her 30th birthday, she had a change of perspective. She looked into the mirror and she saw herself. And at this point, she was a mother of two, and she did not see. She had realized that she had no value to self, and she did not like who she was, and wanted to take the steps to becoming somebody else. Not only for herself, her children were her motivation. And I want you guys to think about that. You have to look beyond your circumstances. You have to, within your circumstances, look at factors in your life that make you want to do better and become better, and stick to some of those things, because sometimes those are little insights and little triggers from the Holy Spirit and God to helping you define who you should be. They're subtle, they're fleeting, but they're always there. So, in looking at the mirror, she was able to identify that the person that she is not who she is to be, and that she was going to take necessary steps. Janetta was a school dropout, um, and decided to take the first step towards getting a GED. GED is the equivalent of a high school diploma in the United States of America. In getting that, she was able to get into a professional setting, went got her undergraduate, and based on the story, was working on a PhD by the time that this book was completed. So that tells you just how a change of mindset, a change of perspective can lead you. But I know that the author does not speak a lot on the faith perspective, but we are people of God and certainly tie a lot of what we do and how and what we become to God planting seeds and us cultivating those seeds and sowing those seeds. Um, so for me specifically, one of the pieces that I would like to tie in, and this was certainly also a tidbit that was um, given to me by one of my big brothers in this group, Tomuma. Um, we have to ask and ask for the by the Holy Spirit to help us. There is a concept of discernment of purpose. So, so in your prayers, in your quiet time, in your trying to grow and develop and figure out who you want to become, we oftentimes look at the world and come up with something out of nowhere. It works out for some people, but for some, it doesn't work out. And I believe that when you sit down and you really look deep and you seek the counsel of God in what you are to do, when you align your will, or when your will is aligned to God's will and purpose for you, the trajectory of your progress is different. So that's one of the things that I would mention here. When you're doing your reflection in the mirror, who am I? Who do I want to be? I am not a subject or an outcome of my environment. I have the potential to be a lot more than I see. Sit and pray and ask, who am I created to be? My purpose, and what is it that you want me becoming? And what is it that you really want me to be? And how do I get there? And on top of that, all the time be praying in the right direction. All right, so I'll go ahead are there any questions so far or any comments? We're free to answer that. Or if you guys want to wait till the end to direct that to Pastor Silas, I'm seeking your direction and opinion here.
Okay, I don't know if everybody is getting you clearly because there's some few breakages as you in your communication. So just want to be sure that everybody set.
Can everyone hear me?
Please, guys,
We can hear you
can you
now.
confirm if you can get her very well, please?
Okay.
I can hear you now.
Okay,
I
But
saw
it was
a
breaking. It was
few
breaking before.
okay,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Mhm.
trying to push a little bit more.
okay. Hello. Okay,
Okay.
maybe you could turn off your video. It could help. Sometimes it helps with the network when the video is off, and just turning out.
That's what I just did in hopes that it would help.
Okay, I think it helped.
Yeah, I
So
think
I
it's
can hear you
better now.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
helps. Mhm.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Okay. So my question was if I should continue on and then we address questions at some point, or if there's any other pathway. Because I paused and asked if everyone could hear me and if there were any questions so far before I get into the 10 points that were um, directed from the book.
Okay. Well, I think you can just go ahead and finish so that we give enough time for
Mhm.
questions when you're done
Yeah.
across the board. Yeah.
The network is very funny. I
Mm-hmm.
think that she's out now. Hmm.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Dr. Cletus is on. Hey, Doc. Welcome. Hmm.
Okay, she's joined back.
Okay.
My network is playing games with me today.
Mhm. So I
Okay.
was saying that you could go ahead and finish and then after you're done, before we take
Yeah. And in the meantime, if anybody has any specific
Hello.
question that you want to ask,
you can type
Dr. Cletus, welcome.
it on the chat.
Oh,
Welcome.
welcome, guys. Sorry, I'm there are some phone issues. So I was reconnecting my things. But I'm on
Okay,
now.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Yes, so I think that she's just going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
maybe I just really want to highlight some few things that I picked up so far that she mentioned about the issue of uh, getting to a point where you make that decision to face the mirror, and the mirror is from what she explained
I
is
was just
the
trying to have
is
a
the
little meeting. I'm looking for somewhere to hide.
yes, so the mirror is that place of self-reflection, and she mentioned the fact that this it was a milestone in the lady's life, whom John Maxwell uses as an example in his book, and she decided to face the mirror as she turned 30, and to start really truly seeing herself as God sees her, and she inspired us to let the Holy Spirit be an enabler to for us as we look into that mirror to see our true image. It is only the Holy Spirit that can truly communicate who we are to us, and also highlighting that most of us here are not up to 30 yet. We are blessed not to we don't have to wait until we come to that age in our lives to start really looking into the mirror, and then making that turnaround and defining who we are, which can be a turning point in our lives. So far I think that's what I've picked, and I think that is a very, very important point that we need to note as far as the law of the mirror is concerned. So, yeah, Antipe, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Mado. So eloquently summarized. um, so in the book, John Maxwell points out 10 points to the law of the mirror. One of the first, so the first point was guard your self-talk. Um, in this point, there was an example of the number of yeses that we hear from baby to about age 17, and oh, someone has a hand on. Um, sorry, go ahead. Han-
Oh, okay. I think he's an error. It's okay. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Mentioned that from age 0 to age 17, most people hear no in their lives um, about 150,000 times, and yes is 5,000 times, and that's a ratio of 1 yes to 30 no's. So, meaning the average person, if they're hearing, are already facing the obstacle of you cannot do something much more than I am capable, I can, and that shifts and changes how you view yourself and what you think you're capable of. And if the average person walks looking alive in that way, we will walk around with a lot more people who are failures in the world than there are people who are able to overcome. So one of the reasons why this is a good example for me is that we have to be our own encouragers. We have to be our own cheerleaders. We have to look beyond just how people talk and treat us. We have to come up with ways to self validate. We have to think that even times when we make little errors in our lives, or even when we are told we cannot, we have to take a step back, take a look, and see and understand that even if a no is validated, it is a price that is essential for self growth and self development. And that was part of the thing that was the thing that I got in that. My husband is on this call, but there's a clip he plays all the time on by Denzel Washington, a famous actor that you probably all are all aware of. And one of the lines that I pick from that message all the time is fail big to win big. So even though we are tasked to guard our self-talk and to become our own self-encouragers and our own self-leaders, we also have to understand that sometimes failure is part of the process. And failure certainly helps us to grow. And every time you grow beyond failure, you are better than what you were. So that's point one for me. Point two is stop comparing yourself to others. So I read this piece and it was a little bit, I'll say from my own perspective, I was like, I see it, but I also challenge it a little bit. Stop comparing yourself to others. Um, the goal is to be better today than yesterday. But I think that there is a dose of healthy comparison that we need. I don't think that not comparing yourself to others 100% is necessary. How is this validated? When you compare yourself to somebody who is better than you, and you seek not to look at the vice of envy, and you look at somebody as a source of inspiration and a source and a tool that can help you transform, then it helps you grow. So I think that even though the message here is to stop comparing yourself to others, there is a need for us to look around our surroundings. One of the reasons why you're able to look at the mirror and gauge and change your perspective is because you're comparing yourself and your circumstances to the world and seeing that you are not where you're supposed to be. And because of that comparison, you're able to now formulate a process, a thought, and change your pathway, your thinking, and the trajectory of your life through that comparison. So even though the message here is stop comparing yourself with others, I want to challenge you to take a look at that from a slightly different perspective. Um, compare, but not from a point of self doubt or bashing yourself, but from a perspective where I am comparing myself for the to get the opportunity to grow and do better. The third point here is move beyond your limiting beliefs. And one of the poignant phrases on here is that when a man puts a limit on what he will do, he puts a limit on what he can do. And that was a quote from another author, Charles Schwab, that John Maxwell made a reference to. And also in this specific point, he had pointed out a few things, a few steps on how to move beyond this limit. Identifying limiting beliefs that you want to change. Determine how it limits you. Decide how you want to be, act, or feel. Create a turnaround statement that affirms or gives permission to be and to act or feel the new way that you want to become. So we've probably all heard of positive affirmations. I think that that kind of falls within this line. When you think of what limits you, is it my circumstances? Is it my environment? Is it finances that limits me? Is it um, the home that limits, the school that limits, before I interact with that limit me? How does it define who I am? Okay, I'm from this neighborhood. I think everyone within this neighborhood cannot amount to anybody, or you within this family's network, no one has gone to college, no one has been educated, no one has been able to do anything beyond just be in this community. How is that? How do you define that as the limit to yourself? And then decide how you want to feel and act or be or what you want to be. Well, I don't want to be part of the statistic. I want to be, I don't know, a journalist. And I know that if I am stuck here or if I keep believing that I will not amount to something, I will not become what I want to be. So I change the narrative by labeling or forming something that you want to become. And then after you decide what you want to be, act or fail, you create a turnaround statement that affirms you, or you give yourself permission to act, feel the new way. And it might be viewed upon as, I guess, pretentious, but there are laws of affirmation that we should all have and abide by or live by when you do yourself. And this built on the first topic, positive self talk. So if you say, you know what, I'm going to be a journalist, what does it take to be a journalist? I'm going to maybe find contact or talk to people, do some research on the internet, talk to the mentors that I am around, find out from the leaders that we have within this network what it takes to be that, and start working to it. But you have to the work that it takes to build on this comes from you, and it has to be done by you. Um, Value for add value to others. I think that this is key, and this is actually to me one of the most powerful tools that we have. It says it is hard to feel bad about yourself when you're adding or doing something good for someone else. Adding value to others makes others value you. In a sense, positive vibes. And this one spoke especially to me because I think that all the mentors within this um, framework and this network are doing just that. Um, we might all be looked upon as people who are instilling something in you, and I think I said this from the very onset. We are equally learning. We are students in this world just like you are. And some of us are getting the message a little later, and some of you are opportunity to get it a lot earlier in your lives. Do not take the opportunity for granted. Um, adding value to others is beyond maybe running an organization. I think it starts from little things, engaging, being I call it ambassador for good is what I usually call it, being an ambassador for good within your little networks. If you have someone who is challenged by one thing or another and you are a listening ear, that is adding value to somebody else. When you are in your little networks of people just within siblings or parents, you are a tool that transforms or seeks to bring peace or unify or lead. You're all leaders within this network. You've been identified as leaders, so you have to believe, act like it. And we are tasked to be as leaders to serve. I think Dr. Moma mentioned this a lot from his very first meeting with everyone. Servitude and doing for others, adding value to someone's life is a lot more rewarding than it is you getting or giving somebody. It's a selfish act, as is often mentioned by a lot of people within this group as well. So take the time to really look at self and find out that in addition to me trying to seek and gain for myself, how can I be a tool, a vessel that God uses to transform and change somebody else's life? And it could be as little as a smile. That's usually the first impression you give to somebody. A smile, your nonverbal cues, your ability to communicate with people without saying a word is a lot more powerful than even what you say. And I'll also quote this something that I got from the gospel reading yesterday in church. My favorite saint of all time and patron saint, Saint Francis of Assisi, made a comment that as we as people are tasked to be Christ in the world, we should act so much as Christ that our actions should speak so much as Christ that every once in a while it's necessary to use words. In essence, what he's saying, your actions should be so much more that you rarely use words because you speak so loudly. Um, so 5 is do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing to do. This is equally a challenging one. Well, challenging in the sense that it appears to be a lot harder than it should be. Good, being good is easy. We're living in a world that is hurt, is suffering. We're living in a world where a lot of people seek to cut, take shortcuts, but we are tasked with doing the right thing all the time because we're accountable to self, we're accountable to our maker, are accountable to each other. Necessary pathway, in my opinion. So being true to yourself and your values is a tremendous self-esteem builder. Every time you take action that builds your character and that I think this one a lot for me ties in with the notion of honesty and dishonesty. You become stronger as a person. So honesty truly pays. So seek the higher road, the higher road all the time, and not necessarily taking shortcuts to get to the end goal because you will pay a bigger price at the end of the day. Practice a small discipline daily in a specific area of your life. I have to say, for me, this is something that I am challenged by. I have debated throughout the course of the year. I want to read a book a week. I have multiple books on my table. I think I've gotten a few chapters in a lot of the books, but I am yet to complete one in a week. So learning to take small tasks, um, cautioning yourself, is um, establishing some and exercising self-discipline. Small daily specific goals, setting small goals and attaining them. So I am certainly a student on this specific point. It's saying trying to chip away at it a little bit every day instead of trying to tackle it all at once. Self worth is based upon positive habits, actions, and decisions practiced every day. Discipline is the moral builder. Take small steps, chip off a little bit from the big goal, and you eventually get there. We always say, we often say this: baby steps, baby steps. Um, Baby steps is it's not just a cliche; it's a very necessary tool. We sometimes get overwhelmed when we look at the mass of work or the pile of things we need to do or the life we want to live, and we get overwhelmed by the process. But learning to take every little bit, we even sometimes go as far as saying take a minute by that, take it a um, minute by minute to eventually get there. I work in healthcare, and some of you probably know this, and I deal with a lot of sick people, oftentimes people who are near their deathbeds, and sometimes people who are hopeful. And even when, with all sense of science and practicality, it looks like doom is near, and you see that there's often a change and an outcome based on the mindset. The patient that has a lot more optimism and has a lot of faith that builds in on, you know what, I can do this. I know that the load is heavy, but it's not mine to carry. But I know that every moment I have, I will cherish it and they build on it. You see that they have a better outcome, even if death is the end for them, and death is the end for all of us. We often times don't attribute that to the inevitable. Oh, I mean, sorry, the inevitable, but it is. But the people who have a lot more of a positive outcome, or who look at it as, you know what, I'm going to take every day in stride. I'm going to take every treatment process as it comes and not try to think about it as an overwhelming journey that I have to go through, tend to have a much better outcome and an outlook than the person who looks at it and is already defeated by the overwhelming nature of their disease process as well as the treatment course that they have to endure. So it's very important that we learn to exercise discipline, but beyond just that, learning to take everything one step at a time. And when you do that, you realize that every passing minute, every passing day, you're a step closer to your goal than you were. Number seven is celebrating small victories. Mommy Doris will name this. I'm one of the German ministers within uh, the foundation network of Men and Foundation and Reality World. We're all about celebrating our children at every time and opportunity that we get. We celebrate birthdays, we celebrate events here and there because it is a positive reinforcer for us as life in life. We celebrate birthdays, we celebrate as a culture, we celebrate deaths even um, because it's important to celebrate. God has given us gifts, and we have to give Him thanks and praise and honor for blessing us with those gifts. So take the time to celebrate because it would certainly give you a positive reinforcement to keep going. You give yourself a tap on the back. I did it. I made it, and the feeling is good. And don't take it again with the vice of pride, but as a means and an opportunity to keep going. You're halfway through the journey. You look back and say, "Oh, see how far I've come," and many more steps to go, and you keep going. Eight, embrace a positive vision for your life based on what you value. And the major question here is, what is it that you value? Um, what is, I know for me, one of the things that I think about often is that what's my legacy? It's a conversation that I have oftentimes with my husband. What's the legacy? And legacy is it the things that you acquire and accumulate over time, or is it what you impact in people? And the older we get, and the more you learn as time progresses, you realize that your your value changes over time. But it's important to seek one and to focus on it. It will change over time and you build on it, but it's important to look into it, um, write it down, and work on it. So for me, what I do and how people remember or see me holds a lot of value. What did I do to make someone's life a lot better than it was when I met them? The smiling one among my siblings, and I don't know how this started, but for me, one of the things that is I guess almost natural is a smile. Sometimes even in pain, you have to do that. And living in a world where first impression is key, you learn to just walk around with a smile because you never know who, what you pass across, and how that impacts somebody. So it's important to put seek and really question, do a deep self dive into what is it that I value in life. And once you define that, write it down and create a little goal steps to how you can make it a reality, or how you can realize that value system. This also kind of ties in with number eight, number nine. Practice the one word strategy. If you could pick one word about, if you could pick one word to describe yourself, what would it be? And once you pick that word, you can kind of, you when you pick that word and you try to um, break it down, you realize that it expands to much more than you imagined and thought it to be. Most of us here might not be able to really say, okay, this is one specific word. Even I, in doing this exercise, I realized that there were many things that I think I'm passionate about. One second, I'm like, maybe passion, maybe care. Another one is patient. But I certainly love the phrase ambassador for peace. And it's a hard one, but it's a very necessary one and also a very valuable step towards defining you as a person and helping to change your narrative of self. Because if you find a word, if you can pick, if of all the words in the world, you pick something that's negative, that certainly gives you an idea of how you view yourself. And in doing that exercise, it's important that you change it, because you cannot seek to accomplish something if you have a negative perspective of yourself. So step nine was practice the one word strategy. Pick a word that describes you. If it's a negative word, it's time you change it. Pick out something that's positive, that speaks life, that breathes life and vision and possibility and faith. And oftentimes this is something that you need the intervention of the Holy Spirit. One of the things that we also did, and it's funny because in going through this exercise, I see some very practical examples that have just recently transpired in my life. Um, my family attends Sunday school every Sunday. I assist in the Sunday school classes for my daughter, and every Um, Sunday we go. I mean, every first Sunday of the month we have one that we call Family Day, and in our church, the process is the family process. So as our daughter is going through doctrine classes, it is required in our church that a parent or parents are in attendance. So you're learning or going through a renewal of the doctrine as well as the kids are learning. So we are our teachers. We're their teachers at home, so we have to reinforce this information. And after last semester's completion, we went to Christmas break and then we're back. And one of the things that they had us do in the session that started the spring semester, we sat in the class and they wanted us to pick. We went through this app that was provided to everybody. We pick a saint that we wanted to model our family by. And then beyond picking the saint, we had the ability to pick a word. And the word that we, well, not pick, that we had the opportunity to use the app and then spat out a word that he wanted us to reflect on and build on as the time progresses. And the word for my family was create. So we have been in our prayer times together every evening asking for um, God to guide us as well as the Holy Spirit to guide us how and that word is supposed to be used from a family perspective to bring about change or to transform. What are we to create? How are we to go about it? But this word is supposed to be a motivator and an inspiring tool for us as a family. And the only way we can really truly get the answer to what God is trying to have us accomplish it is by seeking the guidance of the Holy Spirit. And I think that a very deep time of prayer and reflection can certainly guide you to getting. The last point here, according to John Maxwell, is taking responsibility for your life. People will treat you how you give consent for them to treat you. Take responsibility for it and turn around. So this piece of information here, I think, is key. Um, Respect is given, respect is earned. If you look at yourself as inferior, and I tie this alongside with the inferiority complex. If you look at yourself as less than, people will look at you as less than. If you give opportunity for somebody to treat you badly, they will treat you badly. If you're subjected to abuse and you succumb to it, and I'm not saying that people are in circumstances beyond their control, that sometimes or oftentimes it's not easy to make that turnaround. But these exercises that we're going through are the tools to empower you to look beyond your circumstances and make the necessary tweak or change in your mindset to be able to overcome them. Um, One of the major things that the chapter tied this the one of the major things that I took away from this at the end was um, give a tenth of a gift to others. If you work 40 hours a week, devote 4 hours a week to serve others. And this, I think, was to me big. It was big because, and I'm going to, in a moment, you call Dr. Mumar to chime in with this because I know that this is something that he lives, breathes, experiences, and has tried to push this out there in the world and evangelize. I know that a lot of us here are familiar with the Bible and the good book, and there's something called tithing and a tenth of who we are. And I don't even think that the whole notion of John Maxwell putting this in this book was attributed to that. I think that the whole idea was give of your time and your service to others. We have all learned the golden the one of the keys to living a good life is generosity, giving, and you get back so much more than you sow or you give. But what this specific piece gave me was, or how I perceived this was the whole notion of tithing. something that we're probably all been all challenged by. And when I said tithing, I'm not only attributing it to tithing in church, but I feel like it's not only tithing in church, but it ties goes back to service to others. We are only good ambassadors to the world. We can only truly become transformed if we learn to serve and if we learn to give back to our communities that we have gained and gathered so much more from. So at the end of the day, in all that we learn and in all that we strive to become, I think at the back or at the end of the day, the message is you grow to transform, to be a to be a servant to society, to be a servant to the people that have cheered you on and lifted you, and even to the people who did not encourage you along the way. It is important that we know that this journey of life, in our pathway to growth, in our pathway of self transformation and becoming the true identity that Christ has instilled us to be, is for us to be like Him, serve. So those were some of the major things that I got out of this. And again, like I said, I'm gonna call Dr. Mumar to maybe expand a little bit since we have a little bit of time on this whole notion of a tenth of your time, a tenth of what you give, what you do on the world, dedicate a tenth of that towards service. Thank you so very much for listening to me. I hope I was able to relay, hopefully, the little bit that I learned from this to all of you.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
thank
Thank
you,
you very
thank you,
much.
thank
That
you.
was awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, would you like
I
to
don't
go?
know my.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
You're
you
seeing
guys hear me?
your mic, yeah. It's giving some noise.
You guys hear me?
When I put that on, it becomes
Hello.
really bad.
We can hear
Yeah,
you
it's
now.
okay.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, Dr. Mumba, we can hear you. You can go ahead.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, yes, can you hear me? Okay. Well, anyways, well, number one, very, very good topic. This is a very, very good topic. And, you know, let me just talk a little bit about this, this tiding of time. And then, before we so just run out just 2 seconds. So tiding is, I think it's a very very, very, it's a topic. I don't want to say it's a misunderstood, but it's a topic that a lot of Christians still have, still have a lot of trouble understanding. And the reason why is because, it is because it is all from the Old Testament mainly. But the difference is that, the Old Testament required you to give tithe. The New Testament doesn't require you, but the New Testament wants you to give tithe from a place of love. So it still expects you to do that, but it has to come from a place of love. So it is not something where, it is not a ritual anymore, because the New Testament is about you becoming, it's really about you becoming more spiritual, you looking inside. So things are not physical anymore, they are more spiritual. So you have to think about that. Anything you're doing, it has to come from your heart. But once you tend to dedicate something to God, it is already saying that, Lord, I know that you are the one that gave me the seed. Lord, I know that you're the one that gave me this time. I know, Lord, you are the one that, that everything I have comes from you. So I'm giving this not because you need anything, but because I recognize my relationship with you. So if you want, so when you decide to live to live a life of tithing, so it will not just be in terms of money, in terms of service. So how much of my time can I dedicate to give to other people that I don't expect to receive anything back from it? So those are the ways that the ways that you have to look at things. Yes, some people may say take at least 10% of your time, which would be like what 2.4 hours, or you can just round up and say 3 to 4 hours. That you're just dedicating that towards God and the service of things to God. Yeah, that is really that's another way of doing tithing. not diminishing the part about money, but money is always still important because your church needs to grow, and your church needs to grow, and the other things that that the money for tithing does. But the whole topic of mirror is a very, very fundamental thing that as Christians is the one thing that we all have to know. We have to understand that it is you cannot expect to receive anything in the world if you don't see that inside of you. You are a
Mm,
microcosm of the macrocosm. So
come on.
whatever you are, whatever the world is all represented inside of you. You are like a small you are like a phone or like a small computer of the entire world. That anything that you need, that anything you want to change the world, you put that information in that computer. If you want to add an information to Google, you don't go to the Google office. You go to your computer and you put it to your personal computer. That is how it shows up. We are God's little personal computers around. So if we want to see something in the whole wide, in the world wide web, we have to change that ourselves. So but how can if you're only going there to Google to look for stuff, you only see other people's stuff. If you're looking out there to look for stuff, you only see people's stuff. If you live a life of victim, you only see victim. So, but you have to change and start realizing that no, 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 no.
Mm,
I have to tap into my Christ nature. I have to tap into my divine nature so that I can reflect the God that I am. God created me perfect. I am not limited by my country. I'm not limited by my color. I'm not limited by what people say. Wherever I am, that is, wherever I am, I will be there and I'll be great there because where the Spirit of God is, there's liberty. So I am
mm,
not worried. So you carry that, and that should be the framework of your mirror. So when you look at that, so when you're somewhere and you're not, and you're not producing at your maximum, then you have to stop that. Lord, is this part of your will? Or am I missing something? Because I know that as a child of God, I should be the most favored. I should be doing everything right. And if I'm aligned with your will, therefore everything should be perfect. So if everything is not perfect, then that's when you look again in that mirror, like, what is going on? Because if the Bible tells you that Christ became poor so that I should become, and so that we should become rich. So if I'm poor, therefore, as a Christian, there's something missing. I am not looking through the light. I'm not looking at the mirror right. I'm not looking things using the right lens. So I have to change and come back and say, what is the lens I'm looking at this? Because I am not supposed to be poor. What is it that I'm missing? And these are critical questions that you ask yourself. You don't ask somebody else. So you don't blame somebody. So if something is not working right for you, don't say, oh, the government did not give me this. The government did not give me this. My parents did not send me to school. We have seen people that their parents never sent them to school and they became millionaires. We have seen people that their parents sent them to the best school and they became, drug dealers or they became homeless. So all of those things, yes, can they help you? Yes, but they are not your source. Everything is your source, and that is the framework that we have to look at it. I hope I didn't go over time. I'll try to keep it short.
Keep talking.
Wow.
just, and I was just listening
Uh,
and hoping that you continue. You don't joke, Andy.
All right. I think
Yeah,
that
but
you hope me that
Doris, I think that if any of our fellows have questions, they should do, because we have just about 10 more minutes of recording time. So if there's any question that maybe someone needs answered, they can raise it up now so that either Antipe or the Dr. Cletus can answer. All right. So Chris, your hand is up. Just go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Good evening, coaches.
good
Um,
evening.
Thank you once more for gathering us here and yeah, giving me the opportunity to speak. Okay, so my question is not really for me, but I guess it has a little bit to do with me. I kind of grew up in a place that was very very positive. So I mean most of what we're saying here is something that I grew up just it was built in me by my family and all of that. So sometimes I feel I don't understand how other people are not as confident, they are not as, I guess different life circumstances and all whatnot. So my question is, how do you help a friend, or you know, like, okay, how do you help them out of this situation? We're getting all of this, we're learning this, and it's great. But now, in the practical sense of, you have a friend, they feel down, they feel like they're not amounted to much because everyone else is doing something and they're not doing that. Do you come into their life and change stuff for them, or how do you move them through that process to actually get to a point where they feel um, good about them, their self esteem?
Hmm. Good question.
Hmm.
Dr. Mama, it looked like you were ready to say something.
No, I will let you know. No, I want you to say something on that part, but it's a very, very good question. But let me let you talk. You're the boss today.
Oh boy. Um, very good idea, Clem. Thank you so much for your question. This forum, even though we are targeting leaders, one of the things we're learning is that we are all engraved and created with those seeds to be leaders, right? So even though it sounds and might come across as exclusive, I'll say one of the you mentioned that you came in you came from that, but somewhere along the line there was a change, or there was a tweak that your actions um, created the possibilities that you have now in your life. I would say one of the things I would do is I would talk to them, but beyond talking to them, I would invite them to sessions and opportunities like this. One of the things that I regret not, sorry, I did not mention about in that book is surrounding yourself with a network of people that you want to be like, and this probably falls in line with the comparison notion. If you want to do better, you don't go sit at the side of the street where people are doing nothing and just observing. You find a way to seek opportunities to go to school, to be around people who are doing better. If you're in school and you're not doing well, you seek classmates who know better, so you can learn from them, study habits. If you are in church and you want to sing in the choir, you join the choir. So you have to find and expose yourself to opportunities that help and transform you. But it certainly all starts with a mindset. You are obviously somebody who is doing something about themselves, and one of the benefits that that person has is certainly the tool of exposure to someone who is doing something full and about themselves. So you are an asset to him or her already by association. One of the things and one of our first tools is always seeking prayer and seeking the intervention and of the Holy Spirit in our lives. I always say when I'm challenged by something or I'm not certain, I always say a Hail Mary. For me, I'm Catholic, so it's an easy prayer for me. And I always find that when my nerves are any what way and I seek the intervention of her or the intercession of her, I always find a way, I always find an answer. To you, it might be a prayer. Dig deep and find out how can I be the tool or a vessel that can help transform them. Just by you identifying it, to me, is already a process to a solution. You being audacious and asking about it is another way to a solution for that friend. You cannot change them, physically change them, but your interactions with them and the way you live out in the world are examples of how he can see a perfect and tangible example, and through you, it might help transform his mindset or his or her mindset and eventually their circumstance. So that's what I could add to that.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else wants to add? Chenny,
Yeah,
you're there.
let me just add something really there, Socrates. So that's a very good thing. And number one, recognizing what kind of environment that that you grow up. Don't take those things for granted, okay? Because those are things that a lot of people don't have. And when people grow up with low self-esteem, and this is one of those things where we talk about a mirror. Because when you have a mirror, it is not all mirrors are the same. And if you're using the wrong lens to look at the mirror, you always look at things poorly. So when you grow up in a very positive environment, it's easy for you to look at life from a positive perspective because that is the lens that you look at. When people who who come from a place where they have been abused or it's not loving, it's not encouraging, they are not push it, then they start to look at things from the lens of from the lens of a victim. The biggest the biggest issue sometimes is how do I help this other person to see the light? And sometimes we think that the best way to do is to go and tell that person, hey, come and see the light. But sometimes the best thing is not to do anything. The first thing to do is always number one, remember you have to pray. You have to ask the Holy Spirit to guide you because it is not one size fit all. I cannot give you a recipe that will fit everybody because everybody gonna be different. There are some people who they will like direct, that you can come in and you talk to them directly. There's some people that by you just bringing that, you have actually reinforced them to really go back into that victimhood, and you don't want to do that. So the best thing sometimes is really try to be the best version of yourself and make yourself close with them without being judgmental. So that by them associating with you, the light in you now will shine. That's why we are the light of Bash. The light of Bash doesn't mean that we go there and try to tell people to change. Is that when we have the light, people around us automatically start to change. And I think that's the most important thing. That end of the day, it goes back to yourself. It sounds like something very selfish, but it's not. To truly help other people, you have to learn how to help yourself first. So when you start to show, when you start to glow around you, but make sure that you stay associate yourself with with those people without being judgmental. Then they'll start to figure out, okay, what is different about him, and that's how they tend to learn. Then when they ask you question, you use as an opportunity now for you to expand. Make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. Can I say something?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
To them.
Mhm.
Yeah, just to add with what my brother Dr. Clayton said. And by the way, I just wanted to thank Madam Mrs. Chairman for all the brilliant things you did and just laying this through for us. Thank you for bringing the lessons and being very focused and intentional about it. Yeah. I will just add on the last thing Dr. Clayton said. Remember, in people's life, you need to earn the right to be able to speak to people's life. A lot of time, people
Mm.
jump into influence people's life without earning the right. And what I mean earn the right is you need to have some credibility. If you have not shown someone you love them, you care them, you have no business criticizing them, you know. That just
Awesome.
and
Awesome.
from what he said, what I understand is when you go, sometimes you see something and you've asked, and the Holy Spirit instructs you, and you find a way, you get close to them, you get to understand them. Then when you do address or bring something to them, or in whatever way you influence, you've earned that right. You've some sort of earned that right to be able to speak into their lives. And that's one thing. But for the lessons for today, what I really appreciated, what I picked out, that was so that is a reinforcement of what we're doing is we make sure around us we should be adding value in those around us, because when you add value to people, that adds value to you. It adds value to you, and
Awesome.
it helps you not to get into that place of self-doubt, place of self-pity. That really
Yeah.
counts. And the other one is to celebrate little victories. You know, we life could
Yeah.
become so challenging and difficult, and
Sure.
if you on waiting to do the big and great things before you celebrate, you will spend a very miserable life. And going ahead, I mean, if you were able to make uh, 7 days of 30 minutes prayers in the morning, that is a big victory, especially if that was not possible for you. I mean, if you are able to move from point A to point B, celebrate that. Yeah, you may be wanting to get to Z, but just those little victories at the end of every day, keeping in mind where you're going, but is to be able to celebrate those and appreciate those victories as you go. so that you are not just focused on the final destination, but you can enjoy the journey getting there. I think those are some of the few things that I picked that were very important for today.
Okay. Okay. Very, very thank you so much, Dr. Cheney, for that feedback. Yeah, so I want us to do an exercise. We learned something. One of the things that um anti-patients really specified was